As we look back on the last year and a half that the division has been in existence, it has gone through 7 major content releases, and with Update 1.8 having launched just under 1 week ago, I thought it would be interesting to take a look into the past 7 updates and touch on the highs and lows of each content release. Each update brought new content and meta changes, and although they were not all met with universal praise from the community, they have all contributed in some way, shape, or form to where we are now. So, without further delay, let's jump right into episode 5 of this series and take a quick look back at Update 1.5. What's going on, agents? It's LtBuzzLitebeer, and I am again taking a trip into the past of my beloved Tom Clancy title and touching on some of the changes that Update 1.5 brought to the live game. Now, this is episode 5 of the series, and in case you missed the first 4 episodes, where I reviewed Update 1.1 through Update 1.4, I will leave a link to those past episodes in the video description below. Update 1.5, better known as Survival, was the second of 3 expansions brought to the live game, and again featured a staggered release schedule, with Xbox and PC going live on November 22nd, while PlayStation 4 was set for December 20th, but was actually delayed another week for PlayStation owners while awaiting approval from Sony. Survival was the focus of Update 1.5 and brought a new hardcore-style game mode to the division, and this was the first time that the game featured a new sickness management mechanic. Cold, sick, hungry, stripped of gear, and beset by a brutal snowstorm, you must survive until extracting safely from the Dark Zone. And as if these set of circumstances weren't enough to deal with, agents were first introduced to the feared hunters, as they would appear when you were attempting to call in your extraction, and provided agents with an NPC encounter they had never yet seen. Survival servers were limited to a maximum of 24 players and were session-based, with one round lasting up to 2 hours. Game changes ushered in a new world tier, with Tier 5 being added for 224 plus gear score, and with this new world tier came 3 new changes, with enemy NPCs being level 34, maximum gear score being raised to 256, and heroic incursions now only available in world tier 5. Named gear items were implemented into the game, with 1 piece available for each gear slot, and each of these gear pieces featured a unique talent. Named gear items could only be acquired in World Tier 5 or in survival game modes, and were designed to be extremely rare in terms of drop rates. Enemy armor damage was finally activated in PvP, with damage calculations ignoring a percentage of the target's armor equal to 1/3 of the shooter's enemy armor damage. Stagger was activated in PvP, with high stagger weapons, mainly shotguns and marksman rifles, now causing a target's aim to flinch. Tactical Advance received a change in that it would now only provide a maximum of a 30% damage increase, and players again received a stash size increase from 70 to 150 items. Loot drops, rewards, and vendors also received several changes in Update 1.5, with NPCs now having a chance to drop crafting materials, and the drop chances increased with world tiers. For Season Pass holders, open world supply drops were first introduced, and the quality of gear obtained from these caches scaled to the player's world tier. Items in the scavenger crate in the base of operations will now scale with the player's tier, as would the gear the vendors offered. Credits and Phoenix credits rewards for missions, HVTs, and incursions were changed to better scale with a player's tier, and resulted overall in an increase starting at World Tier 4. Weaponry received a bevy of changes and new additions in Update 1.5, with the Swift, Provident, and Hurried weapon talents all being modified or removed entirely from World Tier 5. Hipfire received a sweeping change with stronger recoil than aiming down the sights, and this effect would vary based on the type of weaponry the agent was using, starting with the most affected, marksman rifles, up to the least affected, pistols. SMGs saw the Vector receive a base mag size increase, and the MP7, which had been hit with a debilitating base damage decrease in Update 1.4, received a 9% base damage increase. LMGs received a small out-of-cover bonus increase, while the M60 and Hungry Hog both had their base damage decreased, with the Hungry Hog receiving the heavier of these changes with a 13% change. Shotguns had both their aim assist and accuracy reduced, along with a general change to headshot damage, and the M870s received a base damage decrease of 12%. 12 new weapon types were added in Update 1.5, including the MG5s, FAMAS, M700s, converted USC submachine gun, police UMP-45, and Rhino pistols. In addition, 4 new high-end named weapons were introduced in the Golden Rhino, Urban MDR assault rifle, Tommy gun, and Thompson M1928. Gear sets received several small changes, with Final Measure and Hunter's Faith both receiving changes to their 4- and 3-piece bonuses, respectively. In addition, Update 1.5 unveiled the Frontline gear set that centered around the ballistic shield and the ability to equip an SMG while wielding the shield. Now, for those of you agents that have never heard of the Frontline gear set, it was later renamed to the more familiar D3 FNC or Defense gear set. Skills were not immune from a host of changes that included changes to Pulse, First Aid, Support Station, Sticky Bomb, Seeker Mine, Ballistic Shield, Smart Cover, Tactical Link, and Survivor Link. With only 29 items on the bug fix list and a further 6 more being PC specific, Update 1.5 was not nearly as extensive as Update 1.4, but it still had some interesting fixes. Some of my personal favorites were several involving Recovery Link, and that it would not activate if you were aiming another skill or aiming down the sights when you took fatal damage. Weapon talents not activating if the player had exactly met the requirements for main stat values, and a bug that would disable the 4-piece set bonuses for Tactician's Authority, Sentry's Call, and Striker's Battle Gear sets if you swapped out one of the 4 pieces of gear with another piece of gear from the same gear set. My overall impressions of Update 1.5 were one of both excitement and frustration. You see, at the time, I was strictly playing The Division on PlayStation 4, and I could remember how we were not only required to wait for those 30 days to expire for our release date due to licensing agreements between Massive and Microsoft, but we also had to endure a further week of delays while waiting for PlayStation to approve the content release. However, once we finally did receive the Survival DLC on PlayStation, it was extremely exciting to try out, as it was something completely different than anything we had ever seen in the live game. Within my first few hours of attempting survival, I received an Urban MDR in a survival cache and was ecstatic, as my luck with drops in the RNG system are not the best. Survival was what the live game needed, as it added that hardcore style of game mode into the rotation, and I will never forget my first encounter with the vaunted Hunters. The meta had shifted from the Hungry Hog over to the Alpha Bridge, FAMAS uncomplicated weapon talent combo, and if you expected to survive in the Dark Zone, it was almost necessary to run with this configuration. In addition, the PvP facet of the game centered around armor and rolling and recalibrating every piece of gear for more and more armor or enemy armor damage. It really forced the Dark Zone faithful into a one build concept, and honestly, it was really quite boring. I remember spending the majority of my game time either in heroic incursions or survival, as these mission types really challenged me, and I was able to quickly gear up to the newly raised gear score of 256. I can remember starting to frequently run with a coordinated squad of friends, and let me tell you, it makes all the difference in the world. Becoming familiar with a set group of players' combat style leads to familiarity and a comfort level that can never be obtained when running with randoms. Even the highest difficulty in-game missions were no match for our coordinated squad, and for that, I am truly grateful. And finally, I remember how players would grind Lexington over and over, trying for the Barrett's Bulletproof Vest, and how they would absolutely lose their shit when and if they did finally receive that desired loot drop. It really seemed to be the end game during Update 1.5, as many of my friends would strictly grind this single mission over and over in search of that perfectly rolled Barrett's vest. This is going to wrap up episode 5 of this quick look back on the history of the Division's updates, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this look into the past. If you could take the time to rate the video with a huge thumbs up, it would be greatly appreciated. If you want some more of my Division content in your lives, please take the time to hit the sub button and follow me on Twitter. Until my next Division video, this has been LtBuzzLitebeer saying peace out.